Hello friends, and welcome to our third video on suffering as a disciple of Jesus. This is our last video on suffering, and soon we'll begin the videos on healing. But again, suffering, as I said in the second video, the one that hopefully you've watched before this one, but if not, it's okay. You really don't have to watch them in any particular order. But as I said in our last video, we all have this vocation to suffer. Jesus told us that we are all called to pick up our cross daily and follow him. And in doing so, our suffering will hopefully then, just as Christ's own suffering, becomes redemptive. It redeems us, but also it can be for the redemption of others. This idea of redemptive suffering has always been part of our Catholic tradition, but St. Pope John Paul II really kind of brought it to the forefront as he dealt with his own suffering of his many illnesses, Parkinson's being a big one. But in the many ways that John Paul II, as he aged and got sick, but continued to lead the Universal Church as our Holy Father, he wrote a beautiful letter on redemptive suffering called Redemptoris Missio. It's definitely something to give a read in your own holy hours and your prayer time. But John Paul II urges us as disciples of Jesus, with our own vocations of suffering, of picking up our cross, to do what Jesus did, to make it redemptive, to save ourselves and also to offer up our sufferings for others. I'm sure you may have heard, maybe your grandma or your parents even talk about offering it up, right? Well, those aren't just empty words. That's a real call to be like Christ on the cross, who it says, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Today you will be with me in paradise." That Christ, through the midst of his suffering and the people that he meets, from the Simon of Cyrene to the weeping women to Veronica wiping his face, Jesus is continuing to bring redemption and salvation through his suffering. And we are called to be co-mediators, in a way, of Christ's redemptive suffering by also offering up our own sufferings. So what does that look like practically? Because we can often say these very nice spiritual things and then not really know what we're supposed to practically do with that. So hopefully this is helpful in that. But first of all, to not complain, right? Actually, I want to quote one of my favorite saints, Saint Jose Maria Escrivá, who actually, on the day that I'm filming these, this is his feast day. Saint Jose Maria said, I'm going to read it so that I don't butcher him. But Saint Jose Maria says, "Sometimes the body protests and complains, but I try to transform those moans or those aches and pains into smiles, because then they become very effective." Complaining, while we may think psychologically it helps us feel better to vent, but complaining is not medicine, friends. To sit and just kind of weep and feel sorry for ourselves and try to share our woes with others to get other people to feel sorry for us, whether that's our intention or not. To sit and complain doesn't help eliminate suffering. If anything, I think we could even make the argument that by sitting and complaining, we suffer more, because all we're doing is focusing on what's the problem without looking to what will be the solution. So complaining is not medicine. Rather than sitting and complaining about our suffering, let's just keep it silent and interior and bring it to the Lord in our prayer. And that's where we need to bring the suffering and the need that we need to vent it to Jesus. Okay, now don't hear what I'm not saying, right? It's good to talk things through. If you're feeling a certain way and you have your trusted friends or your parents or relatives and you just want to get it off your chest and to share, sharing is not complaining. I hope you all can just kind of know what I mean by complaining when we're sitting and just throwing ourselves a pity party, whether it's alone in our living room or it's with people, and we just want to get people to join me in my suffering so I don't feel alone, and have them also, have some kind of pity on me, right? That's very different from being with a close friend and sharing what's on your heart, because you do need to vent in that way, right? So no need to leave mean comments here. But the throwing myself a pity party and telling everybody woe is me and getting all the sympathy points that I can, that's not going to help me. Rather, if I go to the Lord in prayer and I sit for my daily prayer, because hopefully we're praying every day, and I sit for whatever I give the Lord, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of prayer, maybe a holy hour, and I tell the Lord how I'm feeling. I relate these things to the Lord. God, I'm feeling very angry today, or I'm in a lot of pain, or I'm feeling very lonely. I have this great anxiety, Lord, and I just can't shake it. And obviously you're doing this in conjunction with medicine, right? With actual medicine from your doctor or whatever your medical professional is telling you. I'm not telling you to, don't listen to what I'm not saying. Don't avoid your doctors. Doctors are beautiful and good. Science is awesome. The church loves science. We invented science, all right? Go to your doctor. But I'm talking about your spiritual internal suffering here. To bring it to the Lord and to lay it out and relate those thoughts, feelings, and desires to Jesus, to God our Father, because we are His beloved children. Tell the Holy Spirit, so that then they can begin to give us the grace we need. And in our suffering, we can then offer that up and say, Lord, I would normally go complain to anybody who would listen, even those who don't listen. I would still be willing to tell them about how my back hurts and my knee is given out and I have a hard time breathing and I feel lonely all the time and I'm anxious. I love telling people these things, but Lord, I'm not going to tell them, Lord. Instead, I just offer it up to you for the salvation of my nephew who's struggling with his faith. I offer it up for this couple that just moved in on the block and they seem to be struggling with their marriage. I offer it up for them, Lord. I woke up feeling nauseous today, Lord. I offer up this nausea for my children who are struggling to believe in you, Lord, that are struggling to believe in God. So now my suffering is not just my aches and pains that I've learned to live with, or this disease that I have that makes me feel unloved. Now I'm taking this suffering and I'm telling the Lord in a grateful way that, Lord, I have this suffering and I offer it for the salvation of, and then offer it up for whoever needs that prayer and that suffering. And this is another reason why we take on penances during the season of Lent. It's not just to lose weight in those 40 days, right? Prayer, fasting, and almsgiving in Lent is not a second attempt at our failed New Year's resolution, but we do these penances so that they make us holier in the end, so that they help to redeem us. Our regular daily or monthly or whatever suffering is meant to do the same thing, to redeem us and to redeem our communion, our community that's around us. Again, I hope that these are helpful, and I hope that you're able to receive the healing that you need through our online content. And if you're joining us for Mass online, or if you're able to come join us in person, come and be with our community of faith, either virtually or physically. We love to pray with you and to welcome you here in our spiritual home and our family of faith. God bless you all.